state troopers for Nevada Department of Highways and DOP. Or DO, was it? DPS. Here, make sure I get the right microphone on there. All right, Chris, say hi.
Hello, everybody.
All right, there we go. So it's a lot different than talking on a microphone on your radio on your unit, isn't it?
It's a little different.
Yeah. So the bottom line is, I was reading what's going on, and over the years, I've dealt with law enforcement, being in law enforcement, and even working with the FBI and everything else. So I know the upper echelon has a lot of politics, and I'm not going to say either way on this, but reading the story as it was, I feel that there's a lot of unanswered questions.
That is absolutely how we feel as well.
Okay, so before we go into it, Jody pulled up the official statement. Well, this was an emailed statement to News 4. And a spokeswoman said the Nevada Department of Public Safety is aware of significant public interest in NALA. Is that what it is, NALA? Is that how it is?
It is.
Well, I nailed it first time. I'll be shocked. One of the departments worked in canines. As with all department canines, NALA is a state-funded and highly trained member of our law enforcement family, which is true. It's just like you, except it has fur and doesn't pack a gun.
That's absolutely how I feel, yes.
All right. So to improve performance and ensure renewed certification, the department determined K-9 NALA needed remedial training and other support, including an up-to-date veterinary examination. These steps will help to ensure a long and healthy law enforcement career serving the citizens of Nevada. K-9 NALA's welfare is a priority for the department, and she remains in good health and good hands. This matter is the subject of an internal administrative review. And the department is unable to provide any further comment or details at this time. So that's the official statement from the Highway Patrol.
Yes.
Yeah, and I could see where a lot of that, just reading that statement could tick a lot of people off. So let me tell you what I got out of that. First of all, before we do that, let's get to the story for the people that are not really aware. They've probably heard about it, but they really don't know exactly what's going on with this whole story.
Right. And then just one quick disclosure on my part. Obviously, I'm here as Chris Garcia. I'm not representing the Highway Patrol. This is my experience dealing with them now. So Nala is a 4-year-old Belgian Malinois narcotics detection canine. We've been partnered for over 2 years. I'm her first handler, and she's my first canine. We obviously quickly bonded and became inseparable. She's with me day in and day out, on duty, off duty, and she's my baby girl, and best partner you could ever ask for. She's with me, like I said, on duty, off duty, and yeah, obviously that bond is close. Any canine handler will tell you that bond is close.
Well, look at the ones in the military. Even when they come back, they eventually try to get their dog back with them.
Absolutely. Well, so obviously what got us to this point is on December 8th, there was a very minor non-aggressive nipping incident.
Okay, so when we say non-aggressive nipping, let's clarify that a little bit better.
So dogs, there's a difference between a nip and a bite.
Right.
Again, she is a Belgian Malinois. If she wanted to bite something,
you'd know it.
She would.
Yeah.
A nip is a form of communication, and it could be aggressive and non-aggressive. Aggressive maybe be, hey, here's your warning, stop, right?
Right.
Similar to pushing somebody back or putting your hand out, stop. Or non-aggressive. Maybe she's liking something or whatever. Well, this occurred while she was being petted. She did not snap, did not growl, grumble, nothing. She went over her shoulder and unfortunately did nip at an arm, but again, it was not some snap. It was... My thoughts are maybe it felt good. Maybe she's like, hey, I like this. But contact was made, and a very minor superficial injury was resulted. And in law enforcement, we got to be honest. There are certain things we got to report, and in policy, that's required. So, out of abundance of caution and to adhere to that policy, I notified my supervisor and did the proper follow-up steps. From there, about a week later, I was notified by a lieutenant and captain that they spoke with our canine coordinator for the entire department for the state, and he said they are not looking to take K9 NALA away, so take a deep breath, which I did, but also never thought that was a possibility anyways,
right,
due to the lack of severity. And the only other incident was something similar like this with a department dog. There was 4 incidents before that dog was pulled out of service. So this is the first one. I never thought that would happen. A little while later, I got notified there was going to be a written reprimand. Many people were like, you should fight that as well. That's not justified.
Or against you?
Against me, yes. Yeah. So they were even disagreeing with that point, which I did as well. I'm like, I followed policy. I reported this. I was honest. What kind of written reprimand? And policy states that the handler should socialize the canine with family members while the handler's in direct supervision, which I absolutely was. So that occurs. I send up my disagreement with the written reprimand, and that was the written reprimand notice was served on December 27th. I sent in my notice within 10 working days that, hey, I disagree with this. Any policy cited would be a far stretch. You're just trying to, find something. Well, on January 11th, I got pulled into my major's office, and he said, hey, you're not getting the full story on this. They're taking Nala out of service.
And he said that you weren't given the full story on this. Or no, you didn't get the full story.
I didn't get the full story. It's not being communicated with me what's happening.
Right.
And he said, they're taking Nala out of service. They're going to have you drop her off and your car off in Heiko next week. And I'm shocked. This catches me completely off guard. Like, I think this is behind us, right? I'm getting a written reprimand, whatever. Well, disagree with that, but we're going to move on, be back in service, and on the road. And so I'm blindsided by this, but one of my big things is, like, why can't we do some remedial training? Like, this was a very minor nip. That should be the first option.
Right.
In regards of some obedience, like, hey, let's make sure there's not an issue. Though I know there's not. Yeah, cover yourself as a department. That's fine. Let's verify everything's good and move on. Well, according to him, excuse me, the AG's office says they don't differentiate between a nip and a bite. Once that happens, that dog's labeled essentially a problem, a nipper or biter, and they can't cover it for future incidents. So then my focus is give me the opportunity to adopt or purchase her.
Right.
So from that point, Thursday, January 11th on, that's been the nonstop fight, is getting the opportunity to adopt or purchase Nala and get her home where she belongs. Because it was basically, this is a black and white. She cannot be in service with the Nevada Highway Patrol. That wasn't up for dispute, even though I did touch on that in my course.
Well, you said earlier that another dog had 4 incidents and was still in service.
So was taken out after the 4th incident.
Okay, after the 4th, yes. But it had already gone up to the 4th incident.
Exactly.
But that dog at that time had stayed in service.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the difference between that dog and your dog?
That is my question.
Okay, so it sounds like they're not getting you the whole story on policy.
Absolutely, and the policy is very, unfortunately, vague, and they're trying to say they're trying to be consistent. I'm like, well, you're clearly not. You had a dog that had 4 incidents before you took him out of service. We have 1. What's the deal? And then as far as the adoption, numerous canine handlers for the Highway Patrol in the past have been able to adopt their canine once taken out of service for retirement. Right. Why is this any different? There should be no differentiation between that. Give me my opportunity to adopt or purchase her and let her come home.
So let's because I know, like I said, everybody reads these stories, and like I was just talking earlier, sometimes you read a story and you get sucked into it and you're all supportive and you think this person, it's just been totally wrong. And then you find out later on down the road, and you should know this from case is over.
For sure.
Something pops up. You're like, oh, well, I didn't know that. That never. So let me ask you this: has there been any detrimental reprimands towards you since you've taken this dog?
Absolutely not. In fact, in the last 6+ months, probably since May, we've been taking a different approach training-wise, and we've had nothing but amazing feedback. I have emails to show that, and just that they're doing good. And I've even been telling my sergeant lately, I'm like, hey, I'm going to have to make these hides harder. She's just doing great, and no issues. We're just the teamwork and everything. It's developing, and a canine team takes some time to develop, and we're on track. And I've just been told in the last 5-6 months, hey, keep doing what you're doing. It's working. We're getting positive feedback from the South, which is Las Vegas Southern Command. We also worked with another department.
So these were emails and letters or phone conversations?
Unfortunately, some of it's verbal, but there's people to back that, and then I do have email proof as well.
Yeah. So it sounds to me, Chris, like First of all, I get it. The dog nipped at something. You reported it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like you said, there's a procedure where you have to reevaluate. But the minute there's another case out there where another canine unit had already had 4 incidents before it was taken out, why didn't they do that on the first initial one with that one?
Exactly. And I've been getting a lot of, from the person I talked to, the canine coordinator, about that. He, I feel, misrepresented that situation, claims that it wasn't reported. I talked with the handler directly, and I had been told a story of the earlier nips or bites with that dog. And so basically, when I was issued the dog, I was told, hey, if an incident ever happens like that, report it. It's not the end of the world. They're dogs.
Right.
And the canine coordinator then gave me a whole example of a nipping situation that was reported. They reached out to the party that was nipped, confirmed he was okay, seen if he wanted to do anything follow-up. He didn't. They documented it and moved on. So that's what I would expect in this case.
And you don't have any documentation or email saying that they, from the initial decision of saying, okay, we're not going to this is not a big deal, we're going to let them take care of this.
We don't. And all I have to hope on is that the 2 individuals that told me that will stand by their word.
Own up to it.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
And right now, at least on the high end of the department, I have a lot of questions on integrity and if people are going to stand by what they say, especially with that press release, which I would like to touch base on. Yeah. But we can go a little further into the story if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Circles back around, right? So January 11th, I'm told, hey, she's coming out of service. I cancel a trip that weekend. We had plans for her to be boarded. Obviously, not knowing any of this was coming, we had paid for an Airbnb, snowboarding passes. Canceled that. We're not going to be away from her all weekend, and you know that's our focus. So there on out, we've been focusing on that, drafting up an email to the entire upper command requesting a meeting with the chief's office and the director, and that they postpone any further movement on that until we can talk. I never received a reply on that. That was the only thing I got back was it got pushed down to my sergeant to let me know, basically well-written email, but we're not stopping. You're going to go drop her off on Wednesday.
So have you had any contact with her since they took her away from you?
Not since Wednesday, January 17th. I have not seen her.
So they basically literally just tore you guys apart.
100%.
And it would be interesting to see how who's ever taking care of her, she's in good hands. It'd be interesting to see, what kind of behavior pattern she has now, being away from her handler, And I mean, I get it. I'm sure there are units that are put back into service after, some remedial training and then to another handler. But, that's just more than just handling. That's a bond, I mean, that's what makes that work.
It is 100%. And a lot of people have said, and I mean, I don't think there's a more true statement. These dogs are one-person dogs.
Oh, I know that. I got those. I know. You see,
2 beautiful Malinois. Yeah.
And they're the same way. Gunner, the male, follows me everywhere.
Oh, yeah. That's me with Nala.
I'll turn around and I was like, come on, dude. Come on. I'm right here,
Oh, yeah. She goes to the bathroom with me.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
got to be next to me. And, if she's sitting there and I'm moving around, her eyes are on me.
Now, I'll give you an example of where I totally relate to you when you talk about a nip. Now, I've been playing with Gunner, and Ash.
Yeah.
And we'll be playing around and stuff, and they'll nip at you.
Yes.
It's not. You're right. It's absolutely not aggressive. It's just them having fun. You know.
We all know dogs can't talk, and that is a way of communicating.
It is, and
they're sending a message.
So but what gets me is that they are not. They just base this off of one incident, and you following the procedures, instead of going back and saying, okay, let's figure out what happened here. Let's see if we can resolve this.
Yeah.
And let's get back on track. Because the training alone for that dog is thousands of dollars.
Thousands. Okay? And the time and money we've spent and people have spent around our team, thousands of dollars.
That's right. So they're supposedly not going to be able to use a dog, supposedly.
Well, and that's where the questions come in. And I think if we just go a little further into the story, I think, and the release and the concerns of what's going on.
Yeah, let's go into it. We got time. Let's go into it.
So we fight the whole fight, right? Send up the letter. No response. I did reach out and got in touch with, I called the lieutenant colonel. He returned my call, and I lose track of time. I don't know if it was Tuesday or Wednesday, the morning I was taking her. But thankfully, that's where I got the name Slade Weber, and that's kind of how we found out where she went. He gave me the name. He stopped at giving me further contact information and said he would provide it later in the week. But I was told at that point, if you and the third party, being Slade Weber, if you guys work out for you to adopt her, we just can't be a part of it, but that's between you guys.
Right.
So at this point, I'm thinking, well, maybe they're throwing me a bone here. Go, you guys go work it out. And I'm hoping, like, maybe they're going to tell him, hey, this handler wants her back. Like, you guys do what you're going to do. Well, I drop her off Wednesday, torn up, upset. Thursday, I'm going stir crazy at my house. Look like my Belgian Malinois, walking in circles, trying to make sense of things. And I'm worried sick about her. So finally, with that name, we were able to find who he was, find his social media for his training business, which is questionable if it is a business. We couldn't find any business licenses. It looks like he works out of his house, which, whatever, that's fine. But then we found the connection between him and the lieutenant colonel. They're posing together in a picture on Weber's business Instagram. Second picture in, there's Lieutenant Colonel Malesko. And I'm like, what the heck? And then on his LinkedIn, for the desired canine training, Slade Weber, the last 4 things he had liked most recently were all posts from Malesko. And I'm like, what kind of deal do we got going on here? But again, maybe I'm trying to be hopeful. Maybe they're, hey, this guy's going to come try to adopt her. So I reach out to Weber Thursday evening, check on Nala, confirm he does have her, which he confirmed. And he said, so I said, well, I would really like the opportunity to adopt her. To my huge relief, he agreed. And like the article said, at one point I'm like, we're 100% good to go. He said, yep, she's your dog. I'm like, this guy understands, right?
Right.
He's a dog guy. Everybody that's a dog person should know that bond. And so anyways, he agrees. And he had said that Highway Patrol just signed her over to him, so he would just do a bill of sale to me. Okay, that's cool. And we didn't talk numbers or if it was just adoption, but everything sounded like adoption. But I would have done whatever.
But this was all a phone conversation.
This was a phone conversation, 18 minutes, back and forth, building rapport. I told him the situation. He's like, oh, that sucks, But yeah, she's yours. So we set up to meet the next day in Vegas. I was going to drive to Vegas, and between 11 and 1, we were going to make that happen. 3 hours later that evening, he calls and says he can't move forward. That he tried getting Highway Patrol to sign the same paper for me that they signed for him, and they wouldn't. Well, yeah, we know that. They wouldn't let me adopt her. So what happened to the bill of sale? That's what we were doing. But anyway, I'm like, well, are you kidding me? And he's like, yeah, I'm going back on my word. I can't do it. So I'm like, I've told my entire family she's coming home, right? I know she's coming home. We're celebrating this. You agreed to this. You're going to go back on your word. And he's like, yep, I told him, hey, I've already ripped this Band-Aid off. I'm going to have to do it again. He's like, rip the Band-Aid off. My answer's no.
So he basically got told this is how it's going to be.
From my perspective, yes. Somebody there, my thoughts are they're like, you don't got to do that. I don't think they wanted to see it to begin with. So that happens. Well, anyway, my problem with this whole situation is, that's Wednesday night. The social media campaign goes live on Sunday, right? And we know that Nala was with Slade.
Well, I heard the original story was pulled off of Facebook.
Yeah, so there was like 17 or 1,800 shares. It was going crazy. And unfortunately, the Facebook AI or algorithm flagged it as spam, I think because it was a brand new page and it blew up. So their algorithm apparently doesn't account for things going that fast. I don't know, but it got pulled, which was a huge blow.
I've seen stuff posted on Facebook that had a hell of a lot more hits. It's still on.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's because that's an established account and that's part of also what brought it into concern. I don't know, but that was a huge blow.
I'm not a black helicopter guy, but it just seems like all of a sudden. Now, if someone doesn't feel that a site is appropriate, they can call in and contact them and say, hey, we don't think this is appropriate. Yeah. So I'm not going to say that's what happened, but that is something that is out there. They can request anybody if they have justification. They can request that a page be taken down.
Yes.
You know?
And Vegas Blue Line Media is a pretty large social media account out of the Vegas area, and they had posted it, and they received some type of like cease and desist, and their stuff was flagged.
But was it really?
It was.
That's amazing. I mean, this is really hard to think about, you know, that being something that is possible, you know? So, but once again, you don't have any actual evidence, so I mean, it's just a what-if type scenario.
But here's my situation. Now the department, right, this law enforcement agency puts out a press release that completely sidesteps everything up to this point. They failed to mention that they signed her off from the department last Wednesday. Now they don't even reference the nipping incident, or that they weren't going to be able, the AG's office wasn't going to be able to cover it, and they're going to say they're bringing the performance into question. It makes zero sense. Where did that come from?
What they're trying to do is they're trying to make it look like the dog was no longer an asset. And they're also trying to, from what I read, they're making it look like the handler wasn't giving the dog the full amount of professional, you know, training. I mean, let me read this again, and I'll highlight it on it, okay? The spokeswoman stated that the Nevada Department of Public Safety is aware of significant public interest in NALA. One of the department's working canines, as with all department canines, NALA is a state-funded and highly trained member of our law enforcement family, to improve performance and ensure renewed certification. So what does that say right there? Well, I thought they said they told you that they couldn't use the dog again.
Exactly.
But now they're saying to assure renewed certification.
Yeah, they're keeping her in the department.
Okay, so if they're going to keep her in the department, why didn't they just do that with you?
Exactly. And why did you sign her out of the department to desired canine training a week ago?
And the department determined canine NALA needed remedial training and other support because of one incident. Because of one incident that was reported.
But I feel they're trying to bring into question her performance as a narcotics detection canine, which is totally fictitious. She has been on fire. She's been doing great. Our training records show it. Feedback from superiors show it. Our evaluation.
Do you have documentation showing accolades for her performance? You know, recognition.
We track every training session.
Right.
And it's positive.
But I mean, everything from up above has been coming down has been positive.
Yes.
From your department has saying this dog is doing a great job.
Yep.
Okay, so
you guys are doing great. We're getting positive feedback. Keep doing it.
So the remedial training thing, they're making it sound like the dog has just fell apart.
In my opinion, yeah, that's what they're saying.
That's what it makes it sound like based on the whole incident, you know.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing too, right? Dogs need recertification by post standards every year.
Okay.
And I was set to go to training, our monthly training in the Las Vegas area, actually like the 18th to the 19th, before I knew of any of this. And then we'd already been in talks with my sergeant. We were due for recertification at the end of January. So if that was in question, why would you not wait and see, do they or do they not certify? We had no doubts. Like this was going to be, I mean, essentially a slam dunk.
And here's another thing they put out there, which really kind of turns my gut a little bit. Training and support, other support, including an up-to-date veterinary examination. Well, isn't she required to have an examination every year? Or?
That's kind of more on the canine coordinator side, but she was in the vet last February or March, got fixed, and the Malinois are prone to the stomach turning issue.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. Yeah,
we had that addressed to make sure that the preventative, just to make sure that she's not at risk of that. She has had her vet visits. Okay, so now and here's another thing that totally conflicts with what they've been telling you. Yeah.
These steps will help to ensure a long and healthy law enforcement career serving the citizens of Nevada.
A very big change of heart.
So why would they be sitting here telling a press release that this dog is going to be serving for years to come when they told you that, you know, we're going to put her up for adoption and we're not,
and signed her out of the department?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. That, to me, all that press release does is bring very big questions and mistrust from the public. And to me, it's just discrediting their integrity and everything. Tell us what's going on. Be factual. Do not sidestep and act like...
Well, this is probably... You should know. This is normal. This is what department heads put out when they don't want to talk about the issues that are really there.
But they're totally misrepresenting, and we have documentation. I think it's brazen that they're willing to discredit their word on something like that and just try to. They're omitting facts. Well, let's talk about it. You signed her out of the department, and you know what? It's high enough up that I question. We're going to be able to find that paper trail? I don't know. But we know that Weber put on his voicemail after the incident that K9 Nala is no longer with me. She's back with the Highway Patrol, Southern Command. So there's missteps the whole way. We know she was there.
So she's back working in service?
She's not working, but she is in the possession of Highway Patrol. We don't know who's watching her or if there's another handler.
After they said they signed her off?
After they signed her off.
Which means sign her off means she's no longer.
They gave up their rights.
They're not no longer an officer of the Highway Patrol.
Weber with desired canine training was going to allow me to adopt her. She wasn't there for remedial training. He was going to adopt her out.
Now, according to them, this matter is the subject of internal administrative review.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how long do they have to review this, and why not have you involved in it? Because you were the handler.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in the real world, I would, from cases way back, you know, if this was an incident where there was a criminal investigation, you would be right there with the investigation as well as the K9 unit itself. Right. I mean, they would be asking you questions left and right, you know. I mean, they wouldn't be putting you off to the side somewhere trying not to tell you nothing and severing the connection as a trained, you know, partnership, without having you involved to find out why. I mean, any other place, if there's an accident or something, they need to get your side of what's going on. And, you know, how well has the dog been doing? Has the dog been training efficiently? Has the dog been reacting efficiently? They're not going to find that out from anybody but you.
Exactly. And to that point, as far as the nipping incident, they never reached out to any of the parties involved. They never called and interviewed me further. When I was served the written reprimand, you're able to view the evidence in the case. The evidence in the case was the paragraph incident my sergeant wrote up off of my statement with me there, as well as the 4 pictures that I took. There's nothing further.
Okay, so here we are with this big wall all of a sudden put up basically between the Highway Patrol and you.
Yeah.
And your supporters, you know, people that believe that, you know, this was wrong.
Yeah.
So where do people go from here? What do they do?
So the Bring K9 Nala Home Facebook page has the most up-to-date information as possible. There's a petition on there to sign. Last I checked, it was over 4,300 signatures. And then there's contact information for the director. We would like people to reach out to the governor. We feel he needs to get involved at this point, which he has. They've been sending out that same press release, and it's like, well, I think you should get both the facts, because that is not them. But we just appreciate that, sharing, signing the petition, and helping us spread the word. They are getting on news stations as well, including here. This is the biggest thing we can do is shout it from the rooftops, because there are injustices here and so many questions. I
mean, if you were to turn this around and Nala wasn't a malinoid, but a human being.
Yeah.
Holy crap. People would be like going, you would have the FBI involved and everything else. There'd be inter-department investigations. And, you know, and the bottom line is the dog is an officer.
Yeah.
It is an officer of the department.
Yeah.
You know?
But unfortunately, they look at him as property. And as handlers, absolutely not. That's my partner. That's my family member. And that's the thing. She's replaceable to them, but not to us.
So the governor, have you called the governor's office? Or is that something you can't do at this point?
So I did call the governor's office, and I was told, well, there's a way to go online and request a meeting. But the only thing I could find was like an actual event, and there's tons of information. There's no clear way for me to just go, hey, and email him directly. There are some ways to let your governor know your thoughts, but I've also reached out on his Instagram account. It's relatively small, so I'm like, well, maybe he'll see this. I reached out, direct messaged him and said, hey, who I am, I'd like to speak with you directly.
Right. And you haven't heard anything back?
I have not.
Yeah, that's not a shocker, you know?
Right.
Especially they're like, ooh, this is getting hot. I don't want to touch this, you know?
And it is, and this is the tip of the iceberg. It's going to go further.
I think you're right, and the reason I do is because you guys have a bond, you know?
Absolutely.
And it would be no different than somebody who comes along. It would be no different than someone coming and trying to take one of my dogs.
Yep.
and saying that, well, you know what, your dog nipped at somebody. Okay, fine, my dog nipped at somebody. First of all, my question is going to be where was the individual when my dog nipped at him? Mm-hmm. The second question is going to be, what was that individual doing that would, cause that action?
Yeah.
And the third one would be, why have you not further, investigated the other individual?
Right.
Because just like any dispute, there's two sides to every story.
Absolutely.
So it just sounds to me like they just said, oh, well, you reported this. That's a good thing on you. And now we're just going to take the dog away.
And also, I just don't even think this was the initial thought. I don't know where this came from, because I think initially it was going to be a written reprimand and let's move on. So, over a month later, this happens. If they're concerned, why would we leave her in service with me, at work with me for that period of time?
I know there's some people, there's a lot of, theories of why this kind of thing happens. I know some of the theories are somebody saying that because the dog was a good trained dog and had a good rapport, that someone else heard about this and said, hey, we need that dog down here,
Well,
and just leave you out high and dry,
And real quick on that point, this funding was, from my understanding, earmarked specifically to get canine resources to the rural areas.
Right.
And I think that's an issue. This is now being sidestepped as well.
Well, I know the sheriff's office, they have a canine unit.
Yeah.
And they're busting people left and right coming through here because you got 4 different directions, We
need the resources. Look at the overdose deaths we're having in this community. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
We've got to stop it, and we need those resources.
That stuff's coming in from somewhere, and it's not, as far as last I saw, it wasn't being airdropped,
Exactly.
So it's coming in on 4 wheels or maybe even 2 wheels, but it's coming through,
Right.
And that's just one resource that's been taken away.
And she served North Command East. We've been in Elko. We've been in Humboldt County for the conservation camp out there. We're this whole corner. For the state, they do not have another dog in this region. Now they're going to put another one in Southern Command?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah, it sounds to me, and it also could be, not that it is, I'm just saying it could be a matter of moving funding around.
Who knows what they're doing. But the big thing is, our initiative on this entire situation is we want to get her home.
Well, thank you, Jody. I appreciate Jody bringing that in. So, and I've done this before. I'll give you an example. Years ago, a long time ago, for me, when I was on the air over at the Hotel Nevada for KDSS, someone had faxed me a copy of a DOE, Department of Energy, statement stating that the nuclear underground testing that was being done, they had found that it was getting into the water table, which was for what Vegas used, right? So it caught me off guard. Someone just randomly faxed this over to our radio station. I happened to pick it up.
Right.
So I got a hold of, I tried to call. At that time, it was Senator Bryan's office. And I said, hey, can I talk to the senator about this fax? I want to find out what's going on with this. Does he know anything? No reply back,
Yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe they just need a little motivation. So I got on the air and I read the fax, what it stated, and what the implications were. And I said, well, here's a number. This happens to be the number for Senator Bryan's office. And if you really think that the senator should call us back here at KDSS and talk to us about this with an open ear,
Yep.
Not a closed mind, but an open ear.
Yes.
And find out what's really going on with this. Maybe this is something that should be investigated. So I gave out the number for his office, and within about an hour, I got a phone call from Senator Bryan's office, and stating that he would like to set up a meeting, on the phone, to talk about this.
Yeah.
Now, at that point, they didn't know that I had the actual, I should take this back, they didn't know I had the actual fax letter, just that this was getting out. So I talked to Senator Bryan. He's like, oh, that's absolutely not true. There's no such thing as water getting in. I go, well, this is from the Department of Energy, sir, Senator, and it's a fax that was sent to me that says, hey, there's radiation getting into the water table. And there was this long pause. Then he's like, where'd you get that? Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
That was a big thing. So the bottom line is maybe that's what the people, because there's a lot of people on Facebook that are really behind you on this. And I'm behind you, especially having 2 Malinois and knowing that this, it's not so much the job that you two have. It's the bond that you two have. It'd be no different than taking one of your kids away from you.
Well, we've run into each other at the ballpark with your two now and was.
And I got Ash fixed, by the way.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. But so what I'm going to do is now, if you're listening right now and you're involved on Facebook on this, maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we need to start calling. And I'll tell you right now, you get enough coverage on this and you start getting news stations involved, and they're standing outside the governor's office, and they're standing outside the Department of, Public Safety.
Yep.
And they want to talk to these people up. They want to get real questions answered. 10 years ago, anybody that worked in the federal government would have told you there's no such thing as UFOs. Now, all of a sudden, it's all coming out, So maybe that's what it needs. The people need to step up and maybe call this number. Maybe call this number at the State Capitol building in Carson City. And now, are you ready? Get a pen and a paper. Oh, they're right now. They're trying to get it. Right, hold on a second. I'll say, get paper. All right, you found the paper. Okay, now get your pen. You got it. Good. Now, here's the number. 775-684-5670. And the thing is, you'll probably get a recording, but just leave your name and your number and why you're calling. And I guarantee if they get like 230-something messages on their answering service, they're going to realize they need to start doing something about this. And I'm not trying to play, on Chris's side or any side, but I'm saying this right now is the bottom line is it's not so much that these guys work together as much as the bond that they built together. So Chris even offered to adopt the dog.
Or purchase.
Or purchase,
we'll replace her. You want a dog? We'll replace her.
I guarantee you, either way, I think the community would get behind that too, And, it's like everybody's saying, these two need to be put back together because I feel like a dirt bag just going to work every day. And my dogs are out in the backyard, and when I come home, they go nuts, And you imagine after that bond that you guys have together, that dog is sitting in a cage or in a kennel somewhere, and that person that they've had that bond with, they haven't seen him in almost a month,
2 years straight. We're together literally every day.
Yeah.
A weekend here or there where she's at the boarding, but even that was tough on her. And Chris Ann at the Cedar Grove made a very nice comment. She knows she would say how excited she would start doing her circles when I pulled up.
Yeah.
They know.
Oh yeah, same with mine. Same way. They're for their reputation. They're very emotional dogs.
Yeah.
And they bond. I didn't realize how much they do, But so that's the number. Once again, I'll give it out to you guys, and maybe you guys can catch it. The number is 775-684-5670. That's the State Capitol building. Call that number. Guarantee you're going to get a recording and leave a message. Don't be vile. Don't be, disrespectful. Just say, hey, what's going on between, Officer Garcia and his dog Nala is wrong. You guys need to investigate this. We need to find a resolution to it. And Officer Garcia needs to be informed of what's going on in that process, And if they can't do that, guess what? Elections will be coming again.
Yep.
And for those people that were put into office, call your senator.
Yeah, and Joe Lombardo, remember your rurals.
Yeah, and this is a guy who's supposed to be really pushing for the rural area,
Yeah.
So
and law enforcement.
That's right. So let's make this a resolve that we can all just look back and say we all did a good thing. We all did something for this, And also, now for the people not on Facebook, they can go to change.org, and search NALA. And then it pops up over there.
It should. And even if you just go to Google and bring Canine NALA home, it's the top one.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we did it. We covered quite a bit of it. Anything else you want to say to anybody out there listening right now?
Just to that point, we've had so much support, so many people reaching out. Thank you to everybody who's taken time out of their day to call, to sign that petition, to share. That's why we're this far. Without you guys, it wouldn't be this far.
That's right. And it takes the people to stand up, you know.
Keep us in your thoughts and prayers.
Because you'd be blue in the face trying to get something done on your own.
Oh, 100%. We would have never got this far, but it made us stir. I mean, the following day after social media went live, I got put on administrative duties, That didn't just happen.
Yeah, and you know what? That right there, if there was nothing to this, if there was nothing to this, this whole situation never would happen. There's a lot going on deeper than this.
Oh, it's deep.
Yeah, and for them to try and, shake you down.
Yeah.
And pull you off the street.
Yeah, we're shorthanded as it is. Your state trooper shredded papers for nearly 10 hours yesterday.
So somebody's playing little whiny handy-pandy games and saying, well, we don't like what you're doing. You're going to sit in the office.
Yep.
Well,
during a snowstorm, and there's...
That's right. Someone's laying out on the highway in an accident that dies because the trooper couldn't get to him.
Yep.
We should all thank the Department of Public Safety for that one,
Yeah.
So I think it needs to go farther. I really do.
It does.
And if you guys are out there, if you got connections with the networks, the stations, Carson City, Las Vegas, get this story. They probably already got it.
Yeah.
They probably already got this, and they're just trying to decide whether or not it's a story that they want to pursue.
Yep.
But this is something that it's crazy because if this had been like a year or so ago, with the anti-law enforcement thing,
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they'd be all into the Department of Public Safety on this, The animal rights activists would be all dressed up, with their banners, with the dogs, everything on them,
Well, we live in a great area and we get a lot of law enforcement support, but let's just look at the vast support off this because it's so agreeable. The right decision is so clear. And that's why the outpouring of support. Because not everybody's always just ready to jump and support law enforcement.
Well, I learned this from personal experience, both in the military and on the civilian side, is that the right decision is not necessarily what the government does.
Oh, that's
you
clear.
Watch the news every day,
Yeah.
So, but it always comes to if you dig deep enough and you stick with it, you truly do find at the end there was more than just ignoring the right decision.
You bet.
There was an agenda. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not a black helicopter guy, but there's a lot more to this story than that's being put out,
There is.
And it's going to take the news medias, or it's going to take somebody to get in there and really find out what's going on,
Yeah, and I just don't get it, because if they wanted her off the road and we're going to sign her off, we would have taken her, we would have gone on our way, and this would be done.
Especially if there's policy that's been violated.
Yeah.
That's another thing too. That would bring in the state district attorney's office too.
Right.
And it ain't the first time that the Department of Public Safety has been investigated. So maybe there needs to be somebody to really dig in a little deeper. And if anything else, I'm not saying there is, but I'm saying if there possibly could be dirty laundry in here, as far as Officer Garcia is concerned, I don't care. Just shut it down, scratch it off, and give me back the dog.
Yep.
And that's what it really comes down to, is getting back the dog. That's really what's the most important thing.
Yeah, quit using her as a bargaining chip. We'll replace her. She's a tool to you guys, and she's much more than that to me.
Well, I'll tell you what, you got some big werewolves to step up and, and stand up for something that you really believe in. And obviously there is a bond there, because if you didn't have that bond, you wouldn't be going this far into it, you know? I mean, nobody wants to sit in an office, sit there and, doing paperwork all day when they could be doing what they really like to do. So you've already made a lot of sacrifices. And then she has too.
She has too.
And it wasn't even her choice. She's just been, this is where she's at,
Exactly. 2 years of her life has been dedicated to this state. And rather than honoring what she has done in that time, they wanted to put her out the back door to this other guy.
Yeah.
And quietly, they thought, but we here we are.
I got a gut feeling that someone else is wanting this dog,
There's some underlying thing, and I don't know if that just ties back to the connection between the trainer and the lieutenant colonel. We don't know what that type of connection is, but I bring up this would be similar to somebody just riding off NHP cars to their potential buddy that has a car dealership. We don't do that.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Same thing. Stuff like that happens. So it does happen, All right. Well, I think we pretty much covered everything. Don't want to stretch it out too far.
Well, thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks for coming in. After I said get your butt in here.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just totally to ignore that. Would be stupid. So hopefully out there somebody's listening. Somebody's probably already called Carson City right now. I bet you've got at least 5 people call. And if there's been less than 5 people, shame on you dog owners out there. So yeah, I hope that bond gets reestablished real quick.
Thank you.